Hello and welcome to the 15th installment of Kalam Digest, Kalam Podcast's weekly news summary. We were absent last week for various reasons, but we're back now, back in business. I'm joined by my esteemed, handsome, and wonderful colleagues, Sam Samra Noura, Adin Faris. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, good.
Thank you so much. Hi.
Good morning, indeed. So much has happened. You cannot leave our region for 2 weeks without having a whole bunch of insane developments on the docket. Maybe the most significant development is the fact that the ICC now has taken on the recommendation given by Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan earlier this year and has now issued an official arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu and the former defense minister Yoav Gallant, as well as various Hamas leaders. What are your reactions to this, guys?
Well, I mean, yeah, as you said, it's been in the works for a long time now. It's been discussed since this early summer, but it seems to have been changed the position of a lot of countries. We've seen, a general diplomatic shift away from supporting Israel, though little has come of it in practice. But it seems that, to me at least, that a number of, the central allies of Israel has taken this as an opportunity to jump ship, basically. They're still not boycotting Israel or stopping the weapon supplies, of course, but they're clearly stating that they will arrest them if they come to their countries. The entire European Union, for example, Australia, not known as a very progressive or radical country on any topic, Canada as well. So, I mean, I think this it's been kind of an opportunity for countries to shift their position in terms of diplomatic diplomacy, if not as I said, if not in terms of exporting weapons, etc.
Yeah, I feel like in a weird way the announcement, the recommendation given by Karim Khan, and this might have to do with like the technicalities of international law, but I feel like the recommendation was given more space in the media than the actual decision. Do you, Hanura, do you feel that the same way?
Well, yeah, I do actually, and also I do feel like it is a very interesting. So we have a lot of things with the ICC that are kind of interesting in the way that how is it practically going to be implemented? For example, Sweden hasn't signaled in any way that they are going to arrest neither of these people if they step foot on Swedish ground. But I feel like it is scarily enough. It seems like one of those signals. And I'm scared that nothing will happen of it, despite the fact that we have these are war criminals now, like they are wanted. But I feel like the general view is that it is still Israel still has a right to defend itself, and that even Netanyahu himself, when I don't know if you saw the speech he gave after that, he called the decision anti-Semitic. To issue an arrest warrant for him. And there was one newspaper that they did a very interesting thing where they cut his speech on the top half of the screen, and then images of children in Gaza being killed. And what he is saying is that we are fighting barbarism, and the barbarism that they are fighting is basically the children. And I am kind of scared that this is just going to be one of those, just a signal, and nothing more will come of it, unfortunately. But I have a pessimistic view of everything in general, so maybe.
Yeah, I think it's hard to not be
I would still say, I mean, I think I agree. It's this far, it's just symbolism, of course, but the fact that he can no longer travel to most of the world. I mean, that is a significant development. He can't go to France. He can't go to Canada. I mean, it's. I'm not. I don't pity him for this, but it's a significant thing for a world leader to not be able to travel to most countries in the world.
Yeah, it is. Is this the first time that they even issue an arrest warrant for a Western leader in general, the ICC?
Yep, it's the first time.
It is.
They issued the arrest warrant for Putin earlier, but of course, no one's surprised about that. But this is. And I mean, I think that's also a significant thing, in the whole the fact that they do that is I actually thought they would not do it because they're so clearly for such a long time it's been just used as kind of a tool for Western powers to in terms of like discrediting leaders from other countries. I mean, usually very, very deservedly so, but still, and now you suddenly have the same people, like Biden, for example, who like just a year ago or a year and a half ago said like, oh, this is heroic and important that they are going to arrest Putin, and now they're saying like, this is a kangaroo court. This is it comes across as extremely it's very, very damaging, of course, to the US as well, the fact that they can't get on board with this, which they can't because it's their major ally, of course, but I mean, it really damages also the position of the US in terms of international diplomacy again and again, as we've talked about many times on this podcast. They're discrediting themselves in the eyes of 90% of the world.
It's going to have to make us reevaluate what the term West means, because or what a Western leader is supposed to be, because if a Western leader is anything like Benjamin Netanyahu or the leader allegedly of the free world, Donald Trump, then the ICC probably will have a lot of reasons to issue arrest warrants for a number of Western leaders. But we did mention like some of the countries that Netanyahu can't travel to anymore. It's unclear if Sweden is one of them, because Nora, you mentioned the Swedish government's let's say tepid response or better response. I saw like a statement by our foreign minister Maria Malmer Stenergård, and she said something along the lines of like the international court is a court that is international, and
that's as well.
The decision that it made was the decision made by the court. We have read the decision made that was decided. Much of you, no questions.
That's basically leaving the ICC on red.
Exactly. I think most people, at least in Sweden, interpreted that as saying something along the lines that yes, if they come here, we will have to arrest them because the court has said so. But
it's a lorry distinction.
Very opposed to like, I mean, even the Canadians, who are not known to be very progressive either, on a straight up question, they just had to say like, yeah, we will arrest them because that's what we are obliged to do because we signed the treaty.
Yeah, indeed. The U.S. has these infamous laws that if it needs to, it will invade the Netherlands and bomb the court.
I'm looking forward to this next step in international diplomacy.
Let's see if Genocide Joe is going to go all the way this time. He's been doing these things that, like, people have been making fun of him, approving the new weapons, the use of like long distance ballistic rockets and stuff like that in Ukraine. People have been like saying that, Biden, like on Twitter, like Biden, if I can't be president, no one can be president.
Go out with a bang.
We'll see how far that goes. Is there anything else you guys want to mention about the ICC? It's a big piece of news, but it happened sort of a few days ago, so it's not as fresh as the other things on our docket.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think hopefully something will come out of this. If nothing, then it is a very strong signal. Also, I would like to raise the question: why is there a Western country in the Middle East?
Yeah. The first time Western leader, and then like someone wrote this on Twitter as well. It's like, oh, so now suddenly you agree that Israel is a social colonial state?
Exactly.
Why else would it be in the West?
Of course, why is there a Western country in Oceania? Several of them. Yeah, I think something just like on the culture of the West. I think that there's this idea that it's sort of. I'm glad that the ICC took this decision because it shows that they're, at least breaking out of a Western colonial system in a way.
Yeah.
Because I recall when I was in Palestine earlier this summer, I have family in Israel, sort of like extended family, and I met them for a coffee. And they're these kind of like leftist Israelis. My relative is married to a woman with Iraqi parents, and like they hate Netanyahu with a burning passion. But they feel like it's his fault, like it's him and his cronies, and otherwise Israel is a great place. And What they said was Israel came to the Middle East, and they say this unironically. Israel came to the Middle East to shine, to be a beacon of light. Yeah. A dark world, kind of like this idea of like, an outpost against barbarism, right? Um, but instead of Israel influencing the region, Israel has been influenced by the region, and now Israel is turning into one of these like, that's why we're so bad. Banana republics turning into this kind of like deep state Egyptian ridiculous dictatorship.
So it's the Arabs' fault.
It's the Arabs' fault because we held them too close to them for too long.
We're so progressive that we moved here, and now we've been been affected by the virus of Semitism or something.
Yes, literally, that's right. So that is the mindset, and I think that's the mindset like in the West in general. And I think the decision by the ICC is like bursting that bubble, inshallah. Okay.
No, I mean, I guess on the same note, I think it's what is significant about this, apart from the fact that it's actually, I mean, it is embarrassing for Israel, of course, and it is practically speaking, I mean, it's actually, it's not great to not be able to leave your own country, basically. But I think the fact that the ICC is declaring that it is somewhat independent is important, and the fact that the European Union, I mean, apart from the fascist members of the European Union, such as Orban, in Hungary, has been
actually surprisingly are siding against Israel in Italy, but
really, I didn't think so.
But Meloni is surprisingly anti-Israeli. Well, maybe for other reasons. Let's not get it.
Perhaps not for the best reasons. Yeah, might be. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's significant that this creates a huge rift between the U.S. and most of its allies. I mean, even the U.K. and the European Union, these are not known to be anti-American or like, this is the NATO. These are the countries that usually just follow along whatever the U.S. says in foreign policy, and now they're explicitly saying we're going to do the opposite of what the U.S. Asks us to. So, I mean, I don't think that they will bomb the Netherlands. Inshallah, they will not. That would be a bad thing. But I mean, I think they will have serious repercussions for the relationships between the U.S. and Europe, and therefore also within NATO, which is also with Trump coming to power, it's already a very strained relationship. So I think that is significant.
For sure. Okay, moving on to our next story. We have a ceasefire deal on the table, not in Gaza. I don't know if that'll ever happen in Gaza, but in Lebanon between Hezbollah and the Israelis. Sam, you've been looking a bit at this. What is this deal, and do you think it's actually possible?
Yeah, I mean, first the background. It seems, I mean, Israel a couple of days ago they managed to move the furthest into Lebanon that they have ever gotten, and during this invasion, it's just 5 kilometers across the border. It's not even halfway to Sur, Tyre, the major city in the south. So basically, the ground invasion is not going well at all. Still not 2 months in. They're still bombing, across the country. Just the other day, they bombed central Beirut, which is, they usually bomb just the southern suburbs, but they killed more than 30 people, blowing up an entire apartment building in Basta, which is, it's you've been there. If you've been to Beirut, it's very central,
Yeah.
and Hezbollah seems to be still, having the major fighting capabilities on the ground. So I think the background is basically that Israel is trying to extricate itself from Lebanon. It's not going well, and I think they need to have some kind of way of getting out and saving face. So what is the deal that's on the table? I mean, it's basically just a rerun of the 2006 peace agreement, which is what's been in place since then. The important part is that Hezbollah is, I mean, of course, Israel withdraws from Lebanon, and to the extent that it's there at all, and stops bombing people. But Hezbollah is supposed to withdraw from the south of Lebanon and move north to the north of the Litani River. This is just the same thing that was supposed to happen in 2006. It did not happen, very clearly not. So for that reason, and for good reason, you might say, Israel has been suggesting that, or they have been demanding that part of the ceasefire deal is that they have the unilateral right to attack Lebanon again if they don't think that the ceasefire deal is working the way it should. I mean, as I just mentioned, it hasn't been working. So, I mean, I can see why they would want that. But on the other hand, a country cannot sign a ceasefire deal which gives the other country the unilateral right of bombing them if it feels like it. That is not a ceasefire deal at all. But in the last couple of days, it seems that Israel has given up this demand, which, to me, it seems that seems to be can only be interpreted as a sign that they are desperate to get out of Lebanon to focus on Gaza.
Yeah. It seems to be the case. I mean, I don't know. The risk is that we get into the same situation as in Gaza, where they claim to want a ceasefire, but then they say, "Oh, but we're still gonna destroy the party that we're negotiating with."
Yeah.
But it seems that they're more willing to just get out of Lebanon. I don't know. I mean, it's doesn't seem like a situation that is beneficial to them at all. And also Hezbollah rockets have been hitting more and more locations in northern Israel, and like even hitting in the middle of Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Usually the casualties are low, but still it's like terrorizing a bit, for people. People are really freaking out, I think, in northern Israel. So I think for that reason as well, they're just like, let's cut our losses.
The north is still basically evacuated, the north of Israel. So, they haven't gotten anywhere close to achieving any of their aims. We all knew, apart from some quote unquote military analysts who were very prone to saying that it will be a week and then Israel will have destroyed Hezbollah. They usually don't know much. We had some of these in Sweden on TV. It was very entertaining. Anyway, most people who know stuff about Lebanon, Hezbollah, and the Middle East knew that they were not going to destroy Hezbollah at all. It was not on the table. But they haven't even managed to stop, the rockets. They haven't managed to do anything, and they have lost, it seems, around 100 dead soldiers and massive amounts of material, which is, Hezbollah has lost a lot more, obviously, but this is also terrifying to Israelis. They're not used to soldiers dying. That's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be the other side, being killed. It seems to just they thought this was going to be an effective kind of surgical quick thing, and now they're seeing that they're not getting anywhere, and they want to get out of it and save face, basically. So, even the opposition in Israel has been backing Netanyahu in this and saying that this is a great thing, the Netanyahu should sign this deal, and we're all in agreement, and yay, it was a great success, now we're getting out. So it seems there's some kind of, national unity idea behind this. Was a great idea. We did the best thing, and now we're getting out.
Yeah, what a surprising thing. A strong Western power invading a weaker country made up of sort of guerrilla militias and failing miserably. That's never would have thought. Never.
Where have we seen this before?
Okay, guys.
First time, no?
That's
To be honest, sorry, Edgar. It's just it's a bit of a scary thing. What you're saying, basically, that they want to kind of withdraw from Lebanon to focus more on Gaza, because a while ago, I think it was Human Rights Watch that announced that 70% of the dead in Gaza consists of women and children. Yeah. And during this period, when after Israel invaded Lebanon, I would say that Gaza has kind of been in the shadow of what's happening in Lebanon. But now, what is left to like refocus on? It's a terrifying thought, because I think that they have been relocating troops. Israel to the northern border, troops that used to be placed in Rafah or in different locations in Gaza. But now, if there is a ceasefire on the table, which is great, obviously, but then that also means actually terrible news for Gaza, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It's also been, more or less clearly stated by the Israelis that their plan now is not to get the hostages out. Their plan is to reoccupy Gaza permanently. And, and there's a major parts of the current government in Israel who also wants to rebuild the settlements inside Gaza. We all seen these videos or these clips of like people just basically selling real estate to Jewish Americans investing in Gaza, build your own bungalow right on the beach in Gaza. So, I mean, that is not, it's not at all, an impossible or improbable even outcome that they will just reoccupy Gaza and give up on the hostages. They will find one every now and then, but then, they will just have this ongoing, it's just ongoing kind of anti-terror program in Gaza, which is a terrible idea for Israel as well, of course. They left Gaza for a reason. They left because it was cost them far too much to keep control of it. But, it will be even more terrible for the Palestinians, of course. It will be a catastrophe for the population of Gaza. I mean, even worse than what they've been living through the last 2 decades.
Yeah. Should we move on to our last story concerning Israeli democracy? Just the other day, the Israeli government, in a meeting with its ministers, in a unanimous decision, decided to boycott the sort of liberal, left-leaning newspaper Haaretz, which has been one of the only critical voices against the war in Gaza and against the Netanyahu regime, effectively forcing all government representatives and all state actors to not speak to the newspaper, forbidding them to do any kind of partnerships with it, and definitely forbidding them to advertise in the newspaper. And this is just one, step in what Haaretz claims to be Netanyahu's dismantling of Israeli democracy. Earlier this year, obviously, we reported on this as well. Al Jazeera was barred from reporting in the country, and individual journalists of Palestinian or non-Jewish heritage have been harassed and arrested in Israel over the past year. Noura, as a journalist, how do you react to this?
I think that it's a terrifying thing, because I think if you want to do something illegal and you want to cross the line, then the best thing is to just kick out all of the journalists that in any way would want to spread what you are doing. And I think that we have seen this happen, especially with Al Jazeera. It was a looming decision for a very long time. And then when it finally happened, everybody was kind of in shock. And Al Jazeera is now reporting from like nearby countries, such Jordan, where they literally cannot. And you have Al Jazeera journalists, they cannot even go into they cannot go into Israel. They are not welcome. And now you have an actual, like, one of the very few voices that are critical to Israel that aren't even allowed to report anymore. And if we just go back a little bit to when Iran attacked Israel, we were talking about this in one of the episodes, that the damages weren't actually being covered by the Israeli media. So basically what they are doing is that by banning Haaretz in this very harsh way, they are securing that they have some type of control over every media outlet, and that the image that is being presented to the world, they will always be able to control it. And that's honestly terrifying. And also, at the same time, we're still calling this the only democracy in the Middle East, which is insanity to me.
Yeah, I mean, this must be the end of using that phrase. I mean, of course, I mean, there's still aspects of it that are democratic. They still hold elections, etc. But I mean, I sincerely hope and believe that no one will think it's a good catchphrase to use for PR purposes anymore. Then I think that was, I mean, a very good point, Noura. I mean, in fact, we already talked on this podcast about the fact that there is already a very strong, unofficial censorship in Israel, where they're basically just saying, do not write about that, and the media doesn't. And, the unreported casualties, etc., which even, as we also spoke about, Yair Lapid, the leader of the opposition, came out and said this, everyone knows that we're not reporting the actual casualties. And now, Haaretz step out of line slightly. I mean, they haven't been, against the war in any like strong sense. They haven't been like a pacifist or anti-militarist newspaper. They've just been critical, critical of the aspects of it. Sorry?
Gideon Levy has been.
Yeah, absolutely. They have certain writers who have been, absolutely. And I mean, that's probably the most important part of Haaretz. It's not their news reporting, which is good. It's clearly the best in Israel, but the fact that they also allow actual dissident voices to write. I mean, Haas and Gideon Levy, these are not, they're not the official. That's not the official standpoint of the newspaper, but they allow those people to write in it. So there is an actual pluralism of voices, and it's probably the only, outside of the radical left, is the only place where that happens in Israel. But I mean, they just had a line, and they said, and said certain very negative things about Netanyahu and the regime, and they were basically banned. They just goes to show, it's devastating for Haaretz and for independent journalism, but it's also a very easy and straightforward way of sending a signal to all other journalists and all other newspapers. I mean, even the Jewish Israeli newspapers and TV stations are not safe. You're not allowed to do what you want. You're not allowed to report truthfully anymore. Yeah. And it's also been, unconfirmed reports that they're trying to rein in the Kan, the national public service broadcaster. They were even talking about like defunding it, but they're probably just going to turn it from a public service kind of independent broadcaster into an actual just state TV. So that would also be devastating, because they've also been, compared to the other right-wing newspapers, they've been somewhat independent.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is not bode well for Israel. Perhaps it's that Semitic virus again.
Yeah, exactly. The Arab virus.
Yeah.
Mind virus. Yeah, I think, this for me calls into question Israel's membership of the European Broadcasting Union, which in turn allows Israel to compete in the Eurovision Song Contest.
Absolutely.
Though maybe that could be, some kind of consequence of this, but that it remains to be seen. And I want to thank you guys for this wonderful digest today, and we'll be back next week. I promise all our listeners we won't be absent. Today's Tuesday, the 26th of November. You'll probably be hearing this on the 27th. But for now, that's all from us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.